Welcome to the Test Guild Automation Podcast, where we all get together to learn more about automation and software testing with your host, Joe Colantonio.
Hey, it's Joe, and welcome to another episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. Today, we'll be talking with Mala all about test automation strategy and more. You don't want to miss it. She's worked for some of the biggest brands in the industry like Visa, Home Depot, Splunk, and PayPal. Mala is a highly motivated and experienced leader with over 14 years of experience. So she has a diversity in product quality and automation. She's done a lot of things, building enterprise quality products, CI/CD, and automation solutions. And she's known in the industry as a successful leader with experience in building and leading teams, which we're going to dive into as well. She has a proven track record of translating organizational strategy into actionable solutions that drive operational excellence and growth. Really excited to have her on the show. As I mentioned, she has a lot of experience. We don't know where this is going to go because as I mentioned, a lot of things we could touch on. Really excited to have her on the show. You don't want to miss this episode. Check it out. The Test Guild Automation Podcast is sponsored by the fantastic folks at Sauce Labs. Their cloud-based test platform helps ensure your favorite mobile apps and websites work flawlessly on every browser, operating system, and device. Get a free trial. Visit testguild.com/Sauce Labs and click on the exclusive sponsor section to try it for free for 14 days. Check it out. Hey, Mala, welcome to the Guild.
Thank you so much for giving me opportunity to be here. I am very excited to be here today and share my journey.
Awesome to have you. Came highly recommended by Tristan Lombard. So I'm really excited to have you on the show. Before we get into it, though, is anything I missed in your bio that you want the Guild to know more about?
I think you nailed it for sure, but I do have a very diverse automation platform from backend to UI to web services, and then Salesforce, which is I'm currently working, which I never worked before. So I do have a very diverse background for that.
Nice. So I thought we'd dive into a little bit about that, going from maybe you mentioned back-end automation to API automation to like Salesforce. How is it different? How do you, as a leader, know, how do you read the room to know, like, okay, this group is different than when I did at Visa, so I need to have a different approach and maybe different tool selection than maybe what I've used to before?
Definitely. It comes with a very different platform and where the different stakeholder works. So I do believe automation can come from anywhere, from developer to quality or automation engineer, but everyone needs to have a buy-in, that including from your product to your development team. Sorry, because it's really important what QA or automation engineers are building should have a transparency to across a stakeholder, and we should keep building it. Plus our team should be aware what we have automated and how we are getting benefited. So in across of my 14 years of journey, it was really important to know what audience you're representing, what works the best for it. Let me give you the example. Before joining a Splunk, I worked in PayPal, Visa, and one of the startup which bought by Home Depot lately. Those are financials are very different companies, and then I worked on a website, very different audience and all. But I always had an open mind, what works best for each application. When I joined Splunk, Salesforce, totally different application, totally different era. I never have even seen the UI of Salesforce before that, in that much in detail. But for me was to how to build the best automation for the team, where it could be automation. My slogan was automation for all rather than automation for QA or automation for quality. Because as we are moving towards CI/CD, as we are moving towards more frequently releases, it's very important that you should choose the tool where anyone can contribute in an automation with a least learning path, and they should have a time and transparency to know your automation and know the advantage of it. So when I joined Salesforce group, I always worked before then open sources like Python build, data driven build, automation framework. And before then, it was a REST API based automation framework I worked. Then in PayPal, there was an internal tool called CellQ. I worked on it. But when I joined Splunk, if as our automation leader, I could have chosen the same technology over there. But there were not a single person who was aware of Python. Salesforce is written in Apex. People don't even have a time to invest it in Python and can build. Yeah, I could have hired a team which would be like great in automation building, but no one else would have contributed it. So I came across this tool called Prover, which isn't written in Eclipse Java. And I basically suggested to my management, and we did the POC for plenty of products, and we go through this time a tool based automation, which is really successful for the Splunk Salesforce team because it is way compatible with Salesforce. It has all the compatibility what Salesforce platform has it. When Salesforce is making a changes to their releases, Prover does it by itself. So we are in a very compatible zone with the Salesforce. So it is not like I have start building some niche technology in a Salesforce platform where no one knows it. So the advantage is today our developers are writing the automation using the tool. It is for them as easy as it is for any other automation engineer. And this is how we are proceeding for CI/CD for a Salesforce environment. So the key point is taken is here is that you really need to understand your team, strengths, and you need to work for the automation not on the focus of what QA team will build. You need to have a focus what everyone else can contribute to that automation to have a successful automation platform for any organization.
I love it. And I guess that proves that you're a leader because I think it's kind of gutsy. I don't know why, because a lot of people seem that buy versus build. They're always like, we'll just build. There's open source. We're open
Yeah.
source. We only do open source. They always minimize or don't even look at a solution that may be paid for, but it's made specifically for maybe the user case. How did you have any pushback by promoting maybe a tool that wasn't open source?
Yes, it is always there. Technically speaking, when I was working in Visa, I do remember I can still bring that meeting when I said, hey, I'm going to build a automation framework in Python. And they said, why not Java? You would get always a people who would have one versus another. But yeah, at that point I was early in my career, and of course I was not have that organization also open minded, but I'm very lucky in Splunk. They are very open minded people, like, and you need to bring what you want to achieve. I told my manager, I am great in Python. I can bring the team for Python. We can build the open source. But I can assure you, not of your single developers would be contributing it. Or if they would be contributing it, you have to have a bigger team who could have spent the time to writing the automation. Because think about it, they are writing a code in Apex. Now you ask them to write a unit test in Python. They're not going to do it. Or they will do it, they will take more time for it, and then you are maintaining the two different platforms for them. So it did, like, as I said, I had a very open management. Then I did the POC. We did the POC internally. We presented the options. And as I said, my slogan was automation for all. So, as in our organization, we have a technical product manager who calls as a BSA. They can even write a automation by themselves because they want to contribute in writing it. Think about it, people who have a least background for coding or maintaining the open source. Learning curve would have been a very high for them. Plus, who wants to maintain those test cases also? So breaking the barrier in this era is really important. Personal liking, disliking is one place, but what works for one organization is a totally different. And you need to think out of the box solution. It could be open source or it could be tool. I'm not saying one is better than another. Oh, I accepted the tool which is easy, so you all should do that. But your focus should be, hey, I work for a organization. If I'm building this tool, can someone else from QA team can use it? If not, then you also need to bring the learning curve and try to empower your other stakeholders also, because this is how automation wins. Otherwise, people says to me, I can give you another example. People come to me and say, hey, why can't we run 100% automation for 2 days release? I said, yeah, we have 2000 scripts. When do you want me to run? No, I'm not going to run. So if people are not aware what you're building and they think automation building is something which you can like run like a robotic star, which is not there, it will never give other person a sense also, like where the contribution required and how we are contributing it, and how we need to arrange our release and CI/CD pipeline too.
I love it. And I always get asked the question, what's the right tool for me to use? It's like, I don't know. It depends on your team, depends on your
Correct.
technology. And it seems like Salesforce maybe have unique challenges that maybe like Selenium maybe
It does.
wasn't created for, maybe, I don't know. So
No.
did you notice anything unique about Salesforce that is automation is
No.
different than maybe what you did previously?
Yeah, you can see, not previously. As I said, I never
No.
used Salesforce previously. You could have easily built on Selenium. There was no problem building in Selenium. But now I have told you the another challenge, right? Salesforce has their own releases, right? They have a winter release, they have a spring release, so they make changes. Now, if they're making changes, you have to keep maintaining those changes in Selenium too. Plus, the Salesforce has a different objects, and as I said, it's written in Apex. People who are building the Salesforce coding system, they are trained in Apex. They are not trained in Selenium. They are not trained in building in JavaScript. They can build JavaScript kind of UI, but I don't take as an assumption all Salesforce developers are proficient in any other language. For me, they are very well aware of how Salesforce work. So this tool Prover is exactly the same how Salesforce component has been arranged. Like it reads your metadata and it creates a arc for you. Like suppose your arc is changing. I am not, like, I can tell you, I have a one page which is called opportunity page, which has 60 plus different fields and which is changing. Think about it. If I could have written in Selenium, how many controls I have to write and identified when page is loading. But now we have written in Prover, so it reads the metadata from your arc automatically and tells you this is the difference when you run last time and now. So basic things are already there. So my team is not spending a lot of time to doing the basic task on it. And as I said, if I am training someone who knows Salesforce, for them the learning path is curve is really minimal. Plus they can keep contributing it without spending a lot of time.
I love it. And that's one of the sales pitches of some of these tools is low code or no code. And a lot of people are skeptical, but it sounds like Prover is a low code, no code type solution. Is it really
No,
working that way?
no. And I'm being honest with you, and I'm sure Tristan would hear that. Our org is pretty complicated. We do write a lot of wrappers for us. Like I can give you an example. We write a wrapper to calculate 50 fields when you change your sales order number. We do that, right? We do write a logic from data driven to how my data is reading, which test case you need to invoke. We have written a logic in Java. We have. It's not like it's just the basic thing, the basic structure which we need to maintain it. It is already there. So I'm spending more my time for writing those wrappers rather than maintaining it and rather than doing the basic things daily basis.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just saying, so it is definitely not no code for sure. And I don't think so. Prover did sell it as a no-code tool. They say they are very compatible with Salesforce, and they have all those features of Salesforce, and that I am agree with it, right? So like in Salesforce, you also have a different profile users, right? When you're running a one test, you have to log in as a 5 different user to do 5 different action. So they have those, I'm just giving example, those connection built that one test case can run with the 5 different profile by itself. So I'm not writing a code for that, it's already there. I'm not writing a code for establishing a connection for 5 different profile to log in and to log out, to log in, to log out. It's already there. I'm using it. But as a logically, if I need something to build, like I give you the example, I need to calculate something, or I need to bring my data driven in a sense where specific test case needs to get executed if I pass 5 values versus 7 value, which we are writing it for sure.
Cool. So you've been doing this for 14 years. How has the tester's role changed? I always get asked, is testing going away? It sounds like you keep saying automation for everyone. So it sounds like maybe your developers and everyone else get involved in automation. So does that minimize the tester? Is the tester role going away? How do you see that?
Honestly speaking, it is very challenging for QA to have in a market with a good skill set and growing with a career skill set. When I'm saying in 14 years, it's very different. Sometimes I also do think I already made a mistake. I should have changed my career 10 years back. Because if you have seen now, so many companies are there who proudly say, oh, we don't do QA, there is no QA, no automation. We don't do all those things. But still, the companies who believe in quality and the company who has more end-to-end testing and system testing, they do require QA, right? Like you name the big companies like Amazon, the companies who are very customer centric companies, right? For Amazon, the quality is really meant for them a lot. And they do hire a lot of quality people. They don't care what Facebook is doing. They don't care what Google is doing. And they don't even change people title. If you see in Amazon, people titles, the QA title is still QA. QA is a vertical org. It's not like, oh, you are going to report to director of development. But as you said, how the role has changed. When I'm saying built automation for all, QA needs to focus more on end-to-end or system level of testing, where I don't think developer can contribute a lot. When I'm saying everyone needs to contribute in automation, yes, for functional, sure, but for a system and for an integration, I expect QA to do it the most of the thing. And that is what I present to my management, that how is QA testing is different than developer testing if everyone would write an automation or unit test. Yeah, you will unit test one function, but if that one function is going to work with another 10 function integrated well, that is my team is going to test. So QA really needs to think now on what is their end customer goal is. QA just cannot think, hey, I'm doing the functional test, how to create a sales order in Salesforce. That is not what I'm expecting from QA. I'm expecting from QA to know once the sales order is processed, what will be the invoice for the end customer would look like. That's what is a QA role right now. And when I'm saying why everyone needs to contribute it, quality is becoming the part of everyone's job. It's not like only a QA, we would have 3 months of development, then 1 month of QA, and then we will decide we are going or we are not going. Currently we could have, I have a release in every month, but I worked where we have a release for 2 weeks window, right? People are releasing in weekly basis. How you need to make sure each release is quality intact. In that way, each person in the group has to own the quality. It doesn't mean that QA is not responsible. I'm not saying, hey, I'm not going to responsible if any defect comes. I will just wash my hand and say, hey, everyone tested. I don't know. I define what we are responsible. If some bugs comes, I take the responsibility. I'm not going to say to a developer or to a QA who missed it. If we missed it, testing missed it, testing I own it. It's mine, and here is a plan for for the fix is that. So I go with this attitude. Like sometime when I go to the room and say, hey, everyone would test, everyone owns quality, half of the people get white faces saying, hey, what are you talking about? Do I need to now take a ownership for testing? Because people do get worried when they hear that, right? Hey, you're going to own testing. Because owning testing is one thing, but coming the defect and taking a ownership from the production gets you into a different level of it. So I said, no, that's not what I meant. If something comes up, we will take the responsibility. Developers can contribute the test, which will expedite my team to focus on more the cases which you can't test, rather than I am doing the functional or unit testing for your code that 2 plus 2 works. I don't want to waste my time, my team time for 2 plus 2 works. My team wants to do system testing. My team wants to use those automation testing to doing a customer behavior, which is our end goal, to give them a good quality product where we are going to focus. If something comes up, we will take a responsibility. It's not like, oh, everyone was testing, so we don't know whose problem is that.
Absolutely. No, you mentioned something interesting. If a bug did slip into production, do you have a formal process in place when that happens to try to make your process better? Maybe you can bake it in earlier to say, oh, we have a miss here. Let's make it better for our next iteration. Is it just like just whenever a bug happens, it's not really formalized? How does that work?
So, honestly speaking, again, I'm very lucky. Splunk is not an organization where someone would write me an email, hey, how did that bug come? I usually write an email. This bug came up from production. This is what we missed, and this is how we are not going to miss in future. I have in 3 years in Splunk, I think I received one email, and which was not from my group. But apart from that, but I did work from the even when I was working in Visa, they used to have a retrospective. How did this bug come? Who's responsible in this room, and how they are going to fix it? At that point, also, I was not as mature right now, but at that point, I basically learned if I stand up in that meeting and say, hey, this was a QA miss, here is a solution for it, and I will make sure this will not happen again. That conversation always went great. Because I think taking a responsibility is giving a peace of mind to other person also. My VP was in the room when that happened, and he said, oh, you don't need to say that, it was your miss. I said, no, you need to know, because I don't want you to leave this room thinking, well, how did that happen, right? We are a team, but we don't know how this error is happening. That's not a great sign. The great sign is we know I am responsible, my team is responsible, we will take care. And I think that empower everyone's like, I have my developers, they know if we miss, I will go and accept it. My team miss, we will go accept it. There is no problem in accepting it and giving them a plan. This is how we are going to fix it. And I think that is a change in 14 years. Previously, most of the org has a QA was a vertical org. So you have a development director and the QA director, and they were basically conflicting about it.
Yep.
Most of the companies has now merged the org together, which is good sometimes. Like now they are a same higher level. They know both are their team. Whoever missed it, they need to get fixed. But as a QA, whenever you take the responsibility, you give a lot of people peace in mind. At least we know why the problem happened. It's not like, hey, I don't know why it is not working in production. So it's always good. And I always try to document. I always send a note to my product holder, like, this is what missed. This was a test case. We are adding it into our part. And I make sure that I have been communicated. Even I don't have a process for it. We don't have a process, but I do that.
Cool. So I'm thinking also when I'm thinking of Salesforce, I'm thinking enterprise kind of applications. And every time I think of applications in the enterprise, I think of test data. It's really hard. I've never tested Salesforce. Is there any tips or things you need to look out for with test data when you're dealing with these type of systems with Salesforce?
Not only Salesforce, Joe, but in my 14-year careers, data plays the most important. Because if you're testing with not a valid scenario data, just creating your own data set without knowing your usage of system, you are not even close to do good testing and good automation too. You really need to understand what your customer are and how you are going to build your data too. Like currently, and when I was in Visa too, you know how many transaction Visa get it. Like
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, 1 minute was 45,000. It was
Wow.
2006. No, not 6, 12. Sorry, 45,000. Right, in 1 minute. Of course, you don't know you can't be able to know everything, but you still need to have a good sense of to keep checking the production data. Although some production data are under compliance, you can't, but you need to know your customer is a key for QA, for automation, for general. Right now for Salesforce, I basically get all the deals what is in production. We get the deals, oh, this is how what we are selling in a way, so we try to create a similar data in our lower org. So I try to simulate exactly the same kind of scenarios plus extra scenarios, but at least I know what is going on production. So I do work with my production team a lot to get the data dump, and we do sync our org with the production also to see all those data. So I would say keep studying your data. It's not like, oh, I studied it 1 year back. I know my customer 1 year back. You, as a QA, as an automation person, you need to make sure when you're saying, oh, 100% my test cases are passing for automation or for functional, is your data is aligned with your all production scenarios? If not, keep reviewing when you did last time, when you have on your calendar, when did you take a dump of it, when did you sync with your automation. That is another key for me.
Perfect. And besides test data, also CI/CD. You mentioned someone said just run all your tests over 2 days. Do you have a strategy for CI/CD? Is it
Yes.
do all your what's that like?
So I'm working with my product owners a lot when we have a shorter releases, right? Definitely, I want to know more about product, like what we are changing it, right? If I know, if suppose you are changing A, which is impacting B and C, in my pipeline, I'm going to put the data which is related to A, B, and C. I'm not going to put a data for D, E, E, F, G, O, because everything has to run. If I have a, I can tell you, I have a 2000 test cases. If I have a release in every 3 days, I cannot even run, even I can't even look for the failures also, right? I had for 2 week release, I hardly get 3 days for testing. That is manual and automation both. And so you have to be very smart. You need to work with your development part, and you also need to start knowing your system in a way that if my developer is changing to a object, what will be the touching area could be. So that is another very important skill set you require when you're building CI/CD to get you the good coverage, rather than blindly, oh, I'm going to run everything A to Z every other release. So that's why this is how QA is different than development. Of course, developer can give you the snapshot for their ticket, but QA needs to think, hey, if it is a changes in sales order, I have to run opportunity object. I have to run 10 other regression which is going to impact for this. So we do impact analysis for each ticket, and that is a big game changer for automation industry also, rather than just running blindly everything without even knowing what is really relevant to it.
I mean, absolutely. I worked for an enterprise company before, and they just said, run all the tests, just
Yeah.
scale everything up, run it. It's like, it's too much noise. You have to be able to say, I made this change, and we have these tests that cover that change.
Correct.
Just because, we had mini releases, then micro releases. It just didn't make sense to, like you said, run all the tests all the time. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and honestly speaking, okay, running a all test is okay, but maybe your focus was mainly for component B, which
Yeah.
required a very thorough testing, but you just were so focused on running
Oh,
26,
right.
and
Right.
you basically missed that. And that is why even after having so much of testing, you still get a bug, because my understanding is our focus is so many places, we are not able to narrow downing the things, and that also causes a lot of distraction that does not get you the where you want to be. you have a short releases. You really have to be precise, and you should have a quality pipeline. You should not have let's run everything pipeline.
That's a great point. So say it was component B. Do you have a team that actually swarms on that then for all different user cases, doing exploratory testing, where you have your automation run, but you also have like a team of actually hands-on trying things themselves?
We do that. We have a mixing of both, so we do it on a both way. But still, I am, as I said, exploratory testing is good for the components which is changing now. Exploratory
Right.
testing, my team is not going to do it for regression or the touching component. Uh, we won't be able to do it in 3 days, like 2 days.
Right.
So yeah, it is definitely, you have to be precise. You have to be knowing your system. It's all about knowing your system, knowing your use case as well. It's not like, hey, what is the problem when you have 80% automation? Why can't we run everything? I said, no, we're not going to run everything. I'm telling you, even if we run 40% fail, I'm just telling you, who's even going to look for 40% fail for like half a day when you have a release in like half an hour or 1 hour?
Yeah, I'm just thinking once again, it takes leadership to do that pushback, because sometimes people are just like, okay, I'll just run it, because I would think you get some pushback when people, when you tell people I'm not going to run everything, right?
Yeah, so that's why I told my manager, that's what you're paying me. You're not paying me to agree with you. You're paying me to get you the quality release. Even I'm there in your org or not in your org, working on some another company, but this is not a path of success. The path of success is you know what you're changing. And if you know what you're changing, I will be able to write the good test for you and good selection for test, and then we will not get anything. But if you don't know what you have changed and how it is impacting, you're not going anywhere, even if I have 200% of automation.
Absolutely love it. Okay, Mala, before we go, is there one piece of actionable advice you can give to someone to help them with their Salesforce automation testing efforts or automation testing efforts in general? And what's the best way to find or contact you?
You can definitely contact me on my LinkedIn. Please feel free to connect with me. But I would definitely say that as I'm growing in my career, it is very important make your automation visible, transparent to a different org, because what you're building should not be only focused on QA. So people should think, oh, QA has built some kind of automation. Being a transparent, find a more customer for yourself. Find a more people who can use automation. Like in Visa, I even trained my business owners to run an automation to do the UAT, right? So in that way, they can have more exposed to our tool and can appreciate what we are building and can give you the feedback also.
Thanks again for your automation awesomeness. For links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/A366. And while you're there, make sure to click on the Try for Free Today link under the exclusive sponsor section to learn all about Sauce Labs' awesome products and services. And if the show has helped you in any way, why not rate it and review it in iTunes? Reviews really help in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end, full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Test Guild Automation Podcast. Head on over to testguild.com for full show notes, amazing blog articles, and online testing conferences. Don't forget to subscribe to the Guild to continue your testing journey.